Today on How It's Made. Composite propane cylinders. We have a good old guess about them. Salsa. A dip so good, you'll want to dance about it. Water pumping windmills. When the wind blows, the cradle, well, will fill up. And dragsters. The fastest way to get from A to B. But first, a composite propane cylinder will certainly be appreciated by outdoor chefs. It's 30% lighter than the steel cylinders you have to carry for your barbecue. And you'll never have to wonder how much fuel was left in your tank, because they're see-through. So you shouldn't run out of gas with a burger half-cooked. Composite propane cylinders are made of transparent fiberglass, encased within a plastic housing. Propane, a liquid under pressure, expands as temperature increases. So as a safety feature, the cylinder is equipped with a valve shutoff that kicks in when the cylinder is 80% full. This ensures enough room for the propane to expand. Fiberglass is glass that's been drawn into thin fibers, then woven into fabric, or in this case, yarn. It's the ideal material for a gas cylinder because it's strong, lightweight, rust-proof, and non-flammable. A robot simultaneously winds 12 strands of fiberglass yarn over a steel form, shaped like half a cylinder. The winding pattern is very specific, strategically designed to make the cylinder walls as strong as possible. While winding, the robot applies a powdered binding solution. This immobilizes the strands so that the shape won't collapse when the robot later lifts it from the form. The winding process takes about 45 seconds and produces what's called a preform. The robot transfers the preform over to the next machine. A molding press. It injects liquid plastic at high pressure, impregnating the fiberglass. Then it heats the preform for 10 minutes to cure the plastic. What comes out of the molding press is a fully formed fiberglass half cylinder. The top half cylinder needs to be prepped for the valve. First, an automated drill bores a hole. Then workers apply caulking around a valve fitting. Set the fitting on an assembly fixture, position the hole over it, then press the fitting into the fiberglass. Now they mount the top and bottom half cylinders on opposing lathes. A computer-guided grinding wheel with a fine diamond grit surface trims the edge of each half cylinder to an exact specification. Then it machines a precise 3-degree taper on each edge at opposing angles. Next, an automated nozzle applies adhesive onto the tapered edges. Then the lathes move towards each other, mating the halves. The tapered edges slot together in a tight fit. After the adhesive cures, nearly 2 hours later, this is a solid, inseparable cylinder, which conforms to the standards required by government regulations. Every single cylinder this factory produces undergoes safety tests. This one, in a pressurized chamber, ensures the cylinder can hold the required amount of pressure. This submersion test ensures the cylinder is gas-tight. If bubbles appear in the water, it means there's a leak. After a cylinder passes testing, workers install the valve, which is already connected to the overfill prevention device. The valving machine holds the cylinder steady, while it turns the valve to the precise tightness. Now it's just a matter of snapping together the cylinder's two-part plastic housing. The housing has handles for carrying the cylinder. It also has a flat base to allow the cylinder to stand upright. Composite propane cylinders come in various sizes to fuel everything from barbecues to patio heaters, even ride-on lawnmowers and factory forklifts. Salsa is a popular Mexican dip. A spicy tomato-based condiment people typically enjoy as a topping on tacos or a dip for tortilla chips. Recipes vary, as does the kick factor, from mild to extra hot. Salsa is the Spanish word for sauce. This American company produces 9 different flavors, from regular to roasted garlic to pineapple and mango. Nice. All flavors begin with fresh tomatoes, delivered daily to the factory. Workers inspect them carefully and remove any stems, leaves, and unripe tomatoes. Meanwhile, other workers cut the stems of coriander, a leafy herb that acts as a major flavor enhancer. They wash the coriander in a tank of ice-cold water, then transfer it to another cold water tank for a second wash, and then to another tank for a third wash. The fourth and final wash is in a machine with a food-safe disinfectant containing bacteria-killing hydrogen peroxide. Then they dry the coriander in a giant salad spinner. In another area, they prepare the onions, peeling the skin and slicing off the ends. They rinse the onions with water and the same disinfectant they used on the coriander. Same with the tomatoes. This industrial-strength dicing machine chops up all the ingredients. It has interchangeable blades to adjust for different-sized cuts. First through the dicer, the tomatoes. They enter whole and exit in centimetre-sized cubes. Next, the onions. The dicer chops them into pieces roughly ½ centimetre in size. Meanwhile, the coriander goes into a cutter, which chops it into fine pieces. The recipe proportions are roughly 80% tomatoes, 5% onions, 2% coriander, 5% green peppers, and then additional flavor-specific ingredients, plus salt, pepper, and vinegar. With the preparation work done, it's now time to blend all the ingredients in a giant mixer. Each batch begins with 208 litres of tomatoes. Next comes the coriander. All the ingredients are pre-weighed, so they're in the correct proportion to the quantity of tomatoes. The onions are next. This batch of salsa is garlic and artichoke flavour, hence the next ingredient, artichokes. Now the combined liquid ingredients, lemon juice, lime juice and white vinegar. Followed by the dry ingredients, salt, pepper, dried celery and garlic powder. A final high-speed 5-minute mix ensures everything is thoroughly blended and ready for packaging. The finished salsa goes into vats. From there, a pumping system moves it to the automated filling machine, whose nozzles squirt the required quantity of salsa into plastic containers. The machine then seals each container with a plastic safety film and presses on a cover. This is what the process looks like in slow motion. The filled containers now pass through a combination X-ray metal detector. On the off chance of a foreign object falling into the salsa during production, the machine flags the affected container and triggers an automated arm to eject it from the production line. This standard food safety precaution ensures that every single container, proceeding to labelling and then onto the supermarket shelves, passes the grade as AOLE. I thank you. Coming on, water pumping windmills, 19th century technology still blowing strong today. And dragsters, state-of-the-art straight-line speeders. See you after the break. To pump water from the ground, the windmill reaches to the sky. The blades catch the breeze and spin, while gears convert the spinning action into pumping action. This technology has been around for over 2,000 years. The first known water pumping windmills originated in Persia around 7 AD. In 19th century America, this was the wheel of progress. A metal-bladed windmill that turned with greater force than traditional wooden ones, even in low wind conditions. Its superior pumping capacity made it indispensable to pioneer settling inland, away from rivers and streams. And today, this same design continues to be part of the rural landscape, especially where there's no electricity to run water pumps. Production begins with a 100-ton punch press. Once activated, it cuts triangular shapes from galvanized steel sheets, each with a slot in the center. Each cutout will be a windmill sail. They'll need 18 for each wind wheel. Once stacked, they transfer the sail shapes to a rolling station. The roller curls the steel to an exact curvature, producing a slightly bowed shape, which will efficiently capture the wind. Next, a worker wraps a metal rib around each sail. He taps the sides until it fits. The rib has a tab that slots into the hole on the sail center, allowing the two parts to interlock. Bands fit through the ribs to assemble the sails in groups of 3. Next, a worker slides a metal loop over the guide wheel and drives the ends into holes in the gearbox. He rivets the ends to the gearbox, so they're firmly fixed. Next, he inserts the wind wheel hub and shaft into the main frame of the gearbox. He taps it into place. He then grinds the brake lever to shape it to the brake mechanism on the hub. This braking system is critical. It will stop the wind wheel from spinning out of control in high winds. He spins the hub and activates the brake several times to confirm that his machining is exact and that the brake system works perfectly. If it doesn't, he makes adjustments. Next, using a circular cutter, he carves grooves into steel blanks to shape the gears. The difference is obvious. He installs a set of these gears at the base of the metal loop and secures them with a metal pin. He checks their turning radius, then mates the larger set of gears to the smaller ones, ensuring that the teeth intermesh. This very substantial gear system will drive the guide wheel, creating the pumping action. 2 metal parts called pitman arms link the gears to the guide wheel. A steel pin holds everything together. As the gears turn, the guide wheel rolls up and down the loop to complete a pumping cycle. Next, he screws a series of thin metal rods to the hub. They're called wheel arms, and they hold the windmill sails. The wheel arms fit into pre-cut holes in the structure of the sail sections. He secures the assembly with nuts. Once all the sail sections have been mounted to the wheel arms, the windmill is ready for a spin. It's a test run to confirm the wind wheel and gears function flawlessly. It takes a crane to lift the 290-kilogram windmill to the top of its tower. Once in position, a worker guides the gearbox into the mast pipe. Once it's secure, they hoist the helmet. It's a cone-shaped metal cap that will protect the gears from the elements. He bolts it to the top of the gearbox. With that job done, the windmill is ready to pump. It should last decades, making pumping a breeze and providing water that is as free as the wind. Dragsters roar off the starting line in a cloud of smoke. Then it's a blur. Travelling at speeds of up to 515 kilometres an hour, these hot rods rip through a 400-metre racetrack in less than 4 seconds. It's why they need parachutes to slow down and come in for a safe landing. Blink a couple of times and the race is over. Packing an incredible 8,000 horsepower, a dragster is at least 50 times more powerful than an average car. With fat rear tyres for traction and a tapered aerodynamic body, the dragster is engineered for one thing only: speed. Production begins with the heart of the vehicle, the powerful 8-cylinder engine. To reduce drag, the engine block is made of lightweight aluminium. A technician carefully installs the camshaft and then fastens the timing cover to the front of the engine. He installs the crankshaft and hub. And once the 8 rods and pistons have been loaded and connected, he tests their movement and function. Satisfied with their performance, he encases them with the sump. With the installation of the drive gears and other components, the engine block is now complete. They move on to the supercharger that will boost engine power. This worker seals the seams with polyurethane and caps the ends. He slides strips of Teflon between the rotors for extra sealing. All this sealing will ensure that the compressed air is directed down through the bottom of the supercharger and into the engine. With the supercharger now installed in its magnesium casing, he connects a cage-like starter to its drive pulley. It's now time for a test run. Blue streamers have been attached to the bottom of the supercharger. Their fluttering is a visual indication of the force of the air generated. The next employee attaches fuel pipes to the dragster's metal skeleton. They install the engine and the high-tech clutch. This racing clutch is equipped with 5 discs to transfer the power from the engine directly to the wheels. Between every run, the dragster engine will be completely rebuilt. The rebuild should take just 22 minutes, so the team at the factory is on the clock to prove it can be done. The technician tightens the cylinder heads to the engine block. He installs the fuel distribution system and connects the hoses to the cylinder heads. Dragsters run on nitromethane, known as top fuel in the sport. It delivers more power per stroke. Still on the clock, the crew transfers the supercharger to the engine and connects it to the intake manifold. They use super-strength Kevlar strapping to restrain the supercharger in the event of an explosion. They loop a belt over the gears that drive the supercharger. They adjust the engine valves and then check to confirm the valves move freely. They cover the valves with this titanium lid to prevent oil leaks and keep all the parts in place. A technician connects spark plugs to the engine through slots in the cover, 2 per cylinder. With each step carefully timed and executed, it's taken just 22 minutes for the crew to get this dragster engine in rip-roaring shape. In that 22-minute window, they also bolt the back wheels to the axle. They then slide the steering wheel into place in the cockpit and check it works. Also part of the 22-minute routine, a check of the fuel lever and the loading of the parachutes. They'll be tested at every pit stop before repacking. Finally, they fill up the tank with nitromethane fuel. This high-performing fuel is both volatile and corrosive, so there's a protective cover. This dragster is almost ready for the starting gate. All it needs is a sponsor to pay the bills. One last test of the clutch and this dragster is ready for the track. And it's off in a cloud of smoke.
It may look like a gibbon, but Matt's convinced it's a squatch tonight at 9 in all new Finding Bigfoot. Then at 10 on Discovery, astronauts and scientists look at alien life hidden within NASA's unexplained files.